Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Today, bismillah Allah, we'll discuss together exercise number 3, page 176. It is in reality an exercise about uh, immunity of the child. So, pay attention. The next curve illustrates the evolution in the amount of antibodies circulating in infants during the period extending from the 3rd month of pregnancy to the age of 18th month. So we have a curve here. It represents the amount, as you see on this axis, immunoglobulins. Immunoglobulins, it means what? Antibodies in milligram of blood, in milligram of immunoglobulins per milliliter of blood. So this exercise tells us that the next curve illustrates the evolution in the amount of antibodies circulating in infants during the period extending from 3rd month of pregnancy, yani before birth, to the age of 18th month. Look to the axis of time, please. 0, 2, 4, 6, 9, 0. It is the time of birth. Then from 0 till 18th. So from this period of time during which we are studying the amount of antibodies extends from the 3rd month of pregnancy to approximately 3rd month of pregnancy till what? The age after birth of 18th month. Some antibodies are of maternal origin and from the mother. They cross the placental barrier, the barrier that exists between maternal blood and fetal blood or embryonic blood. Because you must know that maternal and embryonic blood do not mix, and it is some important idea to put in your mind. The blood of the mother does not enter inside the body of the baby. There is a membrane that separates maternal blood from fetal or embryonic blood called placental barrier. But this placental barrier is not completely impermeable. It will allow the passage of antibodies from the maternal blood into what? Fetal blood. Now look to this. Some antibodies are of maternal origin. They can travel through the placental barrier and pass from the maternal plasma to fetal circulation, yani into the embryonic blood, fetal circulation, fetus. Others are produced by the child's own immune system. So these antibodies you are studying and that exist in the blood of the baby are of two origins. Some are from maternal origin, from the mother. The others are produced by the child's immune system. Look to the graphic, to the curves. This is the red one. The red, it is indicated in the legend that the red curve represents maternal antibodies from the mother, and the blue one represents antibodies produced by the infant. Good. And if you look to the curve, we will note very well that the maternal antibodies start to appear starting from 3rd month of pregnancy and before birth. They increase, this amount increases to become maximal at birth. Then after birth, the maternal antibodies or antibodies from the mother, the amount of these antibodies start to decrease and becomes approximately nil zero at 8th month after birth, at age of 8 months. And as you see in this document also, the antibodies produced by the infant start to appear approximately at birth with a minimal amount, then they will start to increase to become maximal at the 18th month after birth, at age of 18th month. I hope this document is clear for you. After this look to the document, it is good to pass to the questions. First part, how do the amounts of maternal and child antibodies evolve with time? The first obstacle that will face any student in order to solve a question is to understand what does this question ask from us, and what we should, how or what we should write in our solution, our answer. Look to the question again, please. How do the amounts of maternal and child antibodies evolve with time? It is as if what? Very good. It is as if the teacher asks us to analyze, to make an analysis of this document, because he asks us to study the variation of the amount of antibodies of maternal and child's origin. Okay, look to this. It is better to always, if you have two curves in the same graphic, it is important to make simultaneous analysis of both. So, as we said before, once we look to the document, I will write like this. The amount of immunoglobulins of maternal origin, or the amount of maternal antibodies, start to increase at age of 3 months of pregnancy and becomes maximal at birth. Firstly, during this time, no antibodies are produced by the infant. Okay, I am speaking about, I will take an interval of time and I will speak about the variation of both antibodies. The maternal antibodies start to increase at 3rd month of pregnancy and becomes maximal at birth. During this time, no antibodies are produced by the infant. Then, after birth, the amount of maternal antibodies start to decrease to become 0 at 8th month after pregnancy, while the amount of antibodies produced by the infant increases and continue to increase to become maximal at 10 milligram per milliliter at 18th month of pregnancy. As you see, I have to speak about the value. And when I said it becomes maximal, what is the maximal amount? 10 milligram per milliliter, or then it decreases to become 0. During this time after birth, the amount of antibodies produced by the infant increases to become maximal 10 milligram per milliliter at age of 18th month. Always when you have an axis with values, it is necessary to put values. Yes. Is there any question? If you have any question, Ya Hubbi, you have to ask me in the group. Part B. Why does the amount of maternal antibodies drop? What is the meaning of drop? Yes, there. Very good. Drop, decreases. Okay, decreases, becomes nil at the end. After birth. Why does the amount of maternal antibodies drop after birth? Okay, why? Why? Can you tell me why? Very good, because we are taking the baby away. Now, no blood relation after birth, no blood relation between the mother and his baby. And maternal antibodies will pass from maternal blood into the circulation of the fetal. Look to this. Some antibodies are of maternal origin. They cross the placenta barrier and pass from the maternal plasma, maternal blood, to the fetal circulation. So after birth, no blood relation anymore between the child or the baby and his mother. For this reason, the amount of antibodies of maternal origin will drop after birth. So when we ask you, why does the amount of maternal antibodies drop after birth? Because after birth, no blood relation anymore between the mother and his baby. So this amount of antibodies that will pass from the maternal circulation or maternal blood into the fetal blood or fetal circulation will drop. Okay? Good. Part C. When is the humoral immunity of the child at a minimum level? When is the humoral immunity? Do you remember what is the meaning of a humoral specific immune response? Very good. When we say specific humoral immune response, we mean the antibodies, the B lymphocytes that become plasma cells and release antibodies. So when you say humoral immunity it's at minimum level, we means what? The amount of antibodies very good is at its minimum level. When the amount of antibodies is very low, the humoral immunity also is very low. Because the humoral immunity means the immunity where the B cells, B lymphocytes are involved. They will become plasma cells and release antibodies. So if the amount of antibodies is very low, then the humoral immunity is very low. Look to the curve. When or where or when do you think the amount of antibodies is very low? Antibodies from the mother, yes, or from the baby or from the child? Both. Because when you have high amount of antibodies, if they are of maternal origin or of infant origin, okay, in this case, the humoral immunity is high. So where in this document you think we have the level of the minimum level of antibodies? لا مش at time zero حبي. At time zero, it is true that the amount of antibodies produced by the child is very low, is zero. But what? The amount of antibodies from maternal origin is very high, so the humoral immunity is very high at birth. It's important to know this. Look to this point of intersection. The intersection of two curves. This point represents the minimal amount of antibodies in the child's circulation, in the infant circulation. Before this point, and at approximately month 5 or 6, because before this time, yes, the amount of antibodies of infant origin is very low, but make a perpendicular like this and like this. You will see that the amount of antibodies of maternal origin is high. So this point of intersection presents the amount where the amount of antibodies is very low, the minimum amount of antibodies. It means that we have the minimal amount of minimal level of humoral immunity. I like at this level here to speak something, a culture يا حبي. Do you think the immunity of the baby at birth is very low? No, very good, because the amount of antibodies is very high. The baby at birth cannot become sick. Why? Because his immunity is very high. This immunity comes from mother, from maternal antibodies, that is at its highest amount, 10 milligram per milliliter of blood. So at birth, yes, bravo, فيك تبوسه بتمه، منا مشكلة, because his immunity is very high. But look to this. When does the humoral immunity is very low? At month 5 or 6. Here, it is a critical time, we say, about the baby. Critical time. At age of 5 months, or approximately 6, and 5 near to 6 here, the baby's immunity is very low. The baby can fall in a disease, can become sick, and we have to pay attention for him at this age. After this time, the amount of antibodies produced by a child start to increase, okay, and the immunity start to become strong again, and that because the amount of antibodies produced by the baby, by the child, start to increase. Okay, good. So in general, the baby at birth has a very strong immunity, but this immunity is decreasing with time, and it becomes minimal at age of 5 months approximately. We have to pay attention for this. At age of 5 months, the baby is at risk to become infected by diseases. Good. Part D. Look, part D. Maternal milk contains Ig. Very good. Antibodies, immunoglobulins. He is telling us something important. Maternal milk contains antibodies. How could the graph be altered in a breastfed child? In reality, it is a question that necessitates reasoning. Now, maternal milk contains immunoglobulins. It means that if the baby is breastfed, يعني عم بترضعه أمه, this baby will take antibodies even after the birth. Through what? Through the milk. Very good. So, maternal milk contains Ig. In reality, researchers prove that there is a type of immunoglobulins. It is IgA in the milk of the mother. The milk of the mother, it's something, subhanak ya Rabbi, that will show us the wiseness of God. In reality, maternal milk is of three types. The first weeks, the first days, it contains mineral salts and vitamins, a lot of high concentration of vitamins and mineral salts. The 2 weeks approximately later, they contain high amount of antibodies, as I said here, IgA. And then the milk becomes an ordinary milk, to not say that it is as the cow milk. And I am not joking here. In reality, there are three types of importances about the maternal milk. The first days, it is of nutritional importance, high amount of mineral salts and vitamins. The approximately 2 weeks later, it is of medical importance, immunological importance, because it contains immunoglobulins. Then it says مش يعني بعدين it's not important the maternal milk. لا. Then becomes something very important. I think it's the most important. It is the psychological importance to breastfeed a child. It is look to the child, a breastfeeding child. If you have a sister or a brother at home, look how he takes milk, then at interval of times he rests and looks at the mother, at his mother or her mother. Okay, are you okay, mother? It is as the baby look to the eye contact between the mother and the baby. The baby asks the mother, are you okay? Can I continue to take your milk? This eye contact between the mother and the baby is of extreme importance, extreme psychological importance. سبحانك يا ربي. البيبي والام بيفهموا مع بعض. اي كونتاكت، بيكفي طلع في خيك صغير او اختك صغيره بيرضع شوي بيطلع بعيون امه. Are you okay? Okay, can I continue? Look to this relation, psychological importance. So let us return to that question. Maternal milk contains Ig. How would the graph be altered in a breastfed child? It says in a breastfed child, it means that the child will take excess it. Oh, okay. Sorry. The child will take again antibodies from the mother. It means that the amount of maternal antibodies will decrease, yes, but will decrease slower than this graph. Will take more time to disappear from the body of the child. In this case, it will become zero, but at age of 12 months maybe. So this will cause that the minimum amount of antibodies, this intersection between these two curves, will become at month 8 approximately, and this minimal amount will become higher than the minimal amount without breastfeeding the child. If the child is not breastfeeding, it will become the human immunity minimal, approximately 1 milligram per milliliter, the amount of antibodies at age of 5 months. But if the baby is breastfed, this curve will decrease slower than this decreasing, and it will become nil approximately at age of 10 months maybe. And this intersection will become higher, and the amount of antibodies maybe becomes 3 milligrams per milliliter. And even the immunity will become minimal, but at age of approximately 8 or 9 or more, but the amount of antibodies, the minimal amount of antibodies will become higher. This means that the immunity will become stronger of the baby. It is an easy exercise. I like to discuss it with you because if it is cultural importance, and we are lighting here the idea of breastfeeding a child, not more than this. Hope you understood what I am explaining, and I hope you study at home and revise your lessons. Hope you are keeping at home. Do not go out. It is a time we have to stay at home, revise. May God protect you. And please, if you have any question, ask me on the group.